Busy is a term that I when my employees tell me they're busy, I tell them to get out of my office.
On today's episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat, we talked to D'Lo from the Ambassador Group. We discuss why he's so passionate about helping bars and restaurants, making sure their assets are covered. Let's dive right in. D'Lo, thank you so much for joining on another episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat. I am pumped for this because we've been getting to know each other, I think, over the last year now and started working together a little bit more. But just as I learn more about you and just who you are and what you're about, you always amaze me. I mean, you're just such a giver. You've built a great business, and so excited to kind of learn more about your history and share it with the audience.
Well, it's nice to be here, Dustin. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. So really, when it comes to entrepreneurship, would love to kind of hear your story. How did you get started in entrepreneurship in general?
I got started when I was 9 years old, and I put my table and my chairs out in the front. And I took all this lemonade that we had inside the closet, and I sketched these, I traced these Star Wars things, and I put aluminum foil around the back, and then I had the tracings, and it looked real.
That's cool.
It was tracing. And anyways, I sold that stuff for like, I think $1 a picture and like 75 cents for the lemonade. And I was all proud of myself because I made like, $11 that day, $11 for a 9-year-old back in 80 something was big. And then I came to this sheer reality after telling my parents how excited I was. I said, well, did you take did you take in effect how much it cost for you to get those products that you got for free? The paper, the aluminum, the pencil, the lemonade itself, the cup you were giving away. I was like, no, I didn't. And that was honestly my first look into entrepreneurship and like a true reality into the fact that I don't really like business. I like people,
Yep.
And that was the whole reason why I did it, because I wanted to be the cool kid on the block that was able to,
connecting people.
Have people come and do that sort of thing. So that was the first, rendition of small D'Lo, doing his thing. And I'd always been a people person. I'd always been that kid at the club that was associated with everybody. It didn't matter who you were, if you were goth, if you were the jock, if you were the popular people, if you were the, the geeks. I loved them all, and I just had fun with that. And I think that was the antithesis for when I got out of college and I worked in the music business, and then I got out of that when I did get into my final reiteration of what I'm doing now for the last 20 years, which is insurance brokerage. It doesn't sound that sexy, but to me, I don't wake up every day and say, oh my God, I'm going to go write insurance today.
Yeah.
It's more like, oh my God, I get to go be on this podcast and talk about myself. Or, oh my God, I get to go meet these people that own these really cool restaurants and learn about, how they work and what they do, and then connect them possibly with somebody else. I get more of a thrill out of the human connection of connecting other people than probably anything. Than winning. Winning's great, but I think you win automatically when you do what you love, and it turns into a passion. So
Yep, I think that's what gets me so excited. Is so many people look at, all right, I got to win, and if it helps someone, great. Where it seems like your mindset is very, how can I help? How can I be a service? And ultimately, the byproduct is winning. Like the win is going to come. You just don't put that in the focus. And I mean, just connecting with people that are connected with you, just hearing all the positive feedback. D'Lo's great person. I mean, people feel that, and I can hear that when I'm connecting with people that we share similar connections. And so, how did that get you into the restaurant or hospitality industry? Because I had a conversation recently that basically someone said it was interesting because some people shy away from hospitality because churn and turnover. I mean, restaurants are come and go very quickly, so it's tough to establish a long-term relationship. So knowing that, how did you get kind of into the hospitality industry?
Yeah, the hospitality industry was not necessarily for me. It wasn't like the hospitality industry, I'll get into this and do this. It was, I wanted to be a part of a party and throw a party, but I always wanted to do it at somebody else's house. I don't like people at my house. I don't like messes. I don't have people over. It's really weird because I'm kind of a recluse, but if you know me out in public, you're like, you know, or you see me on Instagram or Facebook, like, oh my God, you're everywhere. How do you have time to do all this? And well, the time is just, it's just what I do. It's my job. It's how I am and all that. So I think hospitality more or less picked me. I didn't really pick it because when I was at ASU and I got the internship with Warner Brothers and, I started working for bands, and still my love today is music, especially 80s music, and I got to work for these bands and do this stuff. And I started going out to these venues and seeing how the red carpet was rolled out for these guys and seeing how much of a party and how much fun it was. Again, it was about that human connectivity for me. And so to be able to do that on a day in and day out basis was great. But when that went away, when it wasn't the same because of iTunes and Apple and all that, my job wasn't the same. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do. And insurance was the easiest, transition because my dad owned the agency and I was like, okay, well, it's a job. Yep. So I just went in and I had no idea, I would turn it into something. I would make that commitment back into an industry that I was already in because it's what I already knew, but made it my own within insurance. And so that's not something that most insurance brokers like to do or want to do. Yep. You may see insurance brokers out there that specialize in, say, aviation or med malpractice, or attorneys, E&O. Those are all very specific sorts of insurance that are very important, just like hospitality and, primarily liquor liability. And if you don't have a attention to detail or some sort of specialization towards that for more than an hour a week or a month, you're not doing it right. And so that's what I wanted to do. I had the time. I had time on my side. I had some sort of patience. I had no bills. I had a lot of sacrifice that allowed me to carry on and do that. And so it took me now 20 years later to be comfortable and have some of the bigger name clients here in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. It's even working with you. It's been kind of cool to hear the story, but I mean, you're working with some of the biggest restaurants here in the Valley, which is awesome. Cold beer and cheeseburgers and so on. So what was that evolution like getting started? Obviously trying to say yes to everyone and get anyone, but what did you do to get to the point to where you have the biggest restaurants in the Valley coming to you?
You have this focus to want to write any and everything. Yeah. And a lot of times you do it by means of survival. And so, when I got past having to survive and I got to a point where I was like, okay, this system that I'm doing now is working, as opposed to not, that was a really great place to be. I can't tell you exactly where that came in my career, but it did come. And when it came, then it came more of like, okay, now I'm kind of gone over on this side of the hourglass, and on this side, because the time is running out a lot quicker, I have less time for BS. Yeah. So it's like, and I have the experience and I have the resume and the testimonials from people that are like, look, he's responsive. He knows the business. He's owned restaurants. He takes care of us, all those things that I think people are looking for, and has a great staff. And so these are all things that have been told to me. These aren't things that I just, vouch and say. And when I came to that realization, I kept hearing it over and over, then that kind of opened my door, not to be a jerk to people, but just to really interview them as much as they were interviewing me. Because if you don't put it up front about what you're looking for and your expectations, and you're only just sitting back there and always, pleading to their expectations, you're always going to lose.
Yeah. And you're, like I said, I mean, you're such a giver, and I think I fall into this to where I say yes way too much, and something I'm trying to fix. I want to try and help everyone. I love when hey, there's a problem, there could be a solution. Like, cool, let's figure it out. But getting to that point to where it's need to start being more methodical with my time. And I mean, up at 4, bed at 10, and it's constant working. And so I want to get to a point where I can spend more time with the family and all that. So how did you approach it to not be a douche whenever, like, I hear you, but it's not a good, you know what I mean? Like, it's,
I still want to help everybody, and I still go through the process of having a hard time of saying no. And even to this point, I'll run into situations where my business partner's like, what the hell did you do now? Yeah. And it's because I just care. And then I find out that, maybe half the time it was it was a bad decision, but sometimes you just don't know. You don't know when that small, person that's struggling and needs help might, basically blossom into something. And that's what I love enjoying. I love seeing these small businesses blossom and turn. And a lot of my insureds that I've had for 15, 20 years, to watch them with one location under construction, not knowing if they're going to make it or not, have 4, 5, 10, 15 locations, that's the reward for me. So you have to just balance and know that 50% of the time you're going to make the quote unquote, maybe not the best choice for you. And 50% of the time you're going to make, something that's going to be with you for the rest of your life, and you're going to be helping somebody. Yeah. That being said, as I go through things where, I'll get calls from people that are like, hey man, I need a policy for, one day for this and that I legitimately can't do and do justification to the client and or myself, because my time has now, the price level of that has increased a little bit, because the clients that I do have need that time. And so for me to just be like, oh, I'm going to spend 5 hours on working on this $200 policy to literally lose money, that's not going to work for me. And anybody that owns a business can understand that. But to get around not being a douche, having the resources and the assets to be like, hey, look, I know you were referred over by so-and-so. I want to take care of you. Here's where you need to go. And you just click on this and take care of it. And guess what? They go in, they do it themselves. So, most of the time it's just because people don't know, and then they don't have anybody that can help them. And so I've just created a structure and established something that allows me to still help them, but not bleed myself of resources and time.
I mean, it's almost like referral. I mean, it's you personally can't help them, but I do have a network that could help. And I think, that's a huge point, because I was trying, I got to have the answer and supply the answer and all that, to where it's, hey, you know what? I hear you, what you're trying to accomplish. Here's a couple links that could probably give you the information that you need. And because it's the value of time and all that, and it's precious. There isn't more time getting made. You know what I mean? And trying to be able to decipher, is it worth going after? How do you approach it? But I'm big on, it might be something small, but if we work together, it could grow into something big. More times than not, it doesn't happen that way, because life happens or whatever it may be. But I'm again struggling with it and trying to figure out how to say no more without feeling bad, essentially.
But that's okay. That's the empathy that lays inside you, which is a good characteristic, and you're going to struggle with it for the rest of your life, But you will get to a point where, in my opinion, you're going to have such big demand that you're physically not going to be able to do that, or you're going to have to hire more great people like you have here to take care of those means and push it off to them to figure out how to do that while you handle the stuff that you have.
Yep. Yeah. All learning.
Yeah, for sure. That's all life's about, is learning.
Absolutely. So you have some awesome stories in the music industry. Would love to kind of hear what that looked like. What did you do? What are some of the cool people you've got to get some FaceTime with? But really, how did some of those learnings translate into who you are today?
It all started with having class with Pat Tillman, actually. So I went to ASU and I graduated with Pat, and back in the day, Jake Plummer, the Sun Devils. Wow. It was pretty cool, but we had a economics class together. He was so smart. I couldn't even add. And so he was in the, like some of those business classes with me. And I remember sitting in one of the classes, and they had one of the teachers was like, hey, I have an internship for, WEA, Warner Electric Atlantic. It was the 3 biggest record labels at the time, and this was this is the company that distributed all their records to, at the time, Zia, Sam Goody, Warehouse, all the record stores. And so I went in, applied for the internship, and got it. And then from then on, for the next, 4 or 5 years, I worked pretty much for free as an intern. But man, it was the coolest thing ever. And that was before I started my own company. But in the scope of things, I got to work with bands that people probably never heard of or may have heard of. Like, I remember the Bare Naked Ladies were big back then, and they played at the little MU inside this little hall by the Hoodlum's record store, at the ASU, and they couldn't have fit more than 50 people, and people were throwing macaroni and cheese at them, and you just have all these like different like little memories of stuff. I mean, the Ian Asbury from the Cult was playing at Gibson's, which was a local bar that was here at ASU, and he ends up getting in a brawl with the bouncers afterwards because he's holding a glass of whiskey that he wants to finish up after the show, and because he's outside, they want to beat him up and take it away, and he's like, "You're not going to take my whiskey away." Next thing you know, he's on the ground. I'm in charge of him. It makes MTV News. It was absolutely crazy. I'm 22 going, I don't know what to do. But yeah, and then, I got to work with everybody, for a short time or a long time, from like John Fogerty. I flew out and did an HBO special with him, and got to, deal with his wife, who was his manager at the time. And I was running all over Burbank and, this huge HBO special, and you have, all these, Hollywood stars coming in, and I was so busy, I don't even know what was going on other than the fact that I had to get, work done. And, and then you go into the other realm of working for some of the local promoters out here, and you're backstage and you're getting Bruce Springsteen shrimp, or you're, getting Slipknot their pullovers to wear and their mask, and you're freaking out. And, and then of course the Van Halens, the Aerosmiths, the Chili Peppers. I got to work with like all those bands during the, the late 90s, 2000 time frame. It was pretty cool.
I mean, it seems like the not party animal, but the wanting to connect and being around all that. I mean, really the bands bring people together. I mean, when you have a concert, it seems like that really got ingrained into you. And it seems like, I mean, from my perspective, why you like the hospitality industry so much. It's you go to a restaurant, it creates that interconnecting between everyone. It makes people happy, and ultimately you're just making someone's day a little bit better, whether you're making the food or helping the restaurant or bar get insured to properly be covered to stay open, and you're helping someone be a little bit happier in their day-to-day through hospitality.
Well, that is what I feel my job is. My job is helping protect community in essence, or people that do that sort of thing. And so when you look at what's kind of gone on the last year, people were itching to get out and see each other and do stuff. And as soon as they opened up a lot of the restrictions, you saw that. And a lot of my clients were, sales went through the roof. and obviously, yes, they're going to, but I'm talking about through the roof, like prior to when there wasn't, what was
2019
going on. Yeah, and so there's always going to be this need for human connectivity, for community, for all that sort of stuff. And so as much as people say, oh, they're on their phones all the time. There's a lot of that, but I think a lot of that also brings people more information and knowledge of places where they want to go and be a part of. There always comes a time where people are going to want to put their instruments or their devices down and actually connect with the human,
Yep.
That to me is the thrill of being able to know how well these places are doing, and that I'm helping take care of at least one of the facets of their business. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure things are exploding from a sales perspective. Everyone is wanting to get outside. That being said, have you noticed a difference, or should restaurants or bars be looking at their policies? I mean, did it change once COVID happened? Did people kind of not forego their policies, but did they cut down because there wasn't as many people, as much revenue, and now that things are ramping back up? I mean, what does the whole insurance landscape look like heading into COVID, now that we're heading out and things are getting ramped up?
There's a lot of good insurance people. I'll speak for Arizona, because that's what I know. And there's a lot of great insurance people out here, and I have a lot of people that do stuff the same way that I do, but they do a little bit of everything. And again, I'm very specialty related. So that being said, there's also a lot of people that just don't know what they're doing. And, unfortunately for these restaurants and these bars, these men and women are so busy just trying to get their doors open and figure stuff out that, I just become a line item that, it needs to be checked off for the landlord, or for, whatever it is that they just, because they're entrusting that professional to take care of, what it is that they need to take care of. And so, Through COVID, yes, there's a lot that needs to be adjusted and a lot to be done. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are, may not have the coverage that they need or may have too much, or every situation is so different. But this is not an issue that happened because of COVID. This was an issue that's been going on forever because you have professionals that should be doing a professional job, but unfortunately, just like in any industry, everybody's just trying to make money.
Yep. Your clients are busy. You're busy. I mean, I'm talking to you quite a bit, and you're always either hiking. You're busy. Yeah. You're big on, 3 Fs. What are those, and why are you so big on them?
Busy is a term that I when my employees tell me they're busy, I tell them to get out of my office. Because I really think that it's a term that gets overly used. And so every day I wake up, I have something to do. And then that something to do turns into something else to do, something else to do, something else to do. So to have a structure and to have what I call my non-negotiables every day of the things that work for me, it took me 40 years to get there. And now I'm 7 years into that and I have a structure and I know what works for me and what doesn't. Drinking alcohol does not work for me because I will not get any of my non-negotiables done and I will not be a very good person to those closest around me. But having a schedule and knowing the things that I need to accomplish in order to accomplish other things, to be the best husband, to be the best father, to be the best coworker and business person to my clients, that's what's most important to me. And so figuring that out at an older age, and sometimes it's the essence of time. Sometimes there's younger people out there that have already figured that out, and that's amazing. If you figured that out and you've already started a 401k at 20, you're gonna be great. But I didn't. But a lot of my education and a lot of that stuff that I had to deal with my first 20 years was hugely beneficial to where I'm at now because of my knowledge and what's going on. So when I look at what you talk about, 3 Fs, food, fitness, focus, those are kind of the pillars of everything and anything that I do. So knowing what I put in my body, how I feel after I put it in, being intuitive about it. I go out and I eat a lot. I just got to be smart and knowledgeable about what I eat, how I eat. Doesn't mean that Friday I'm going out with AZ Foodie. We're going to go eat a bunch of pizza, but I know that I'm going to do that. I'm prepared to do it. I'm going to enjoy it, because it's a fun time with her and, we get to eat pizza. I mean, great, but I don't do that every day. It's just one of those things. Today on the way over here, I had some chicken and sweet potatoes. Not a big deal. I know I had to be on here. I had to be on. I had to have energy. I got meetings after this. So that's the whole aspect of food. It's not dieting. It's not. It's about just being intuitive and understanding where you're at in the moment and what you need to do in order to get through those moments and be the most productive that you can be. And then you look at fitness, and fitness. Fitness has everything to do with moving the body, understanding how the body moves, and why you're moving the body. And so if you can do that, you can figure out as you get older, mobility is key. It's not how heavy you go or how long you go for me. It's how short I can go and how light I can go and how beneficial it is towards my body and also how much rest I can take. So, my Mondays and Fridays are very specific to just resting and doing things like getting in a cold plunge or doing a sauna or all the stuff that everybody sees that's become real popular. Yeah. The reason why it's popular is because it works. It works for me, breathing techniques, all that sort of stuff. So, to have those days structured out and know that I have that time allotment for that sort of stuff. And then when I look at the focus aspect of things, it's everything from meditation to just walking, going for walks and thinking and doing podcasts and listening to things that are going to help educate me, reading and primarily like right now it's been guitar. I love to have my guitar lessons every week, and that's been an area of focus, and it helps keep your mind, active in other ways when you're using both hands and, you're learning stuff. And, like Van Halen's my favorite band as a kid. I'm learning, Drop Dead Legs by Van Halen. When you're little and you're listening to that, you're like, oh my God, how does he play that? Yeah. And now I'm like, oh wow, this is kind of cool. So it's all that stuff that's really important. So when I combine all those together and I'm able to utilize some aspect of those in my day, whether it's 5 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, I know that I have those things as non-negotiables to make sure that I'm productive for the rest of my day.
Yeah. And what does your process look like to figure out what those non-negotiables are? Do they change on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Or, and even from that, I mean, you got food, focus, family, fitness. There's a lot of different buckets. being a business owner, it's tough to say, all right, this week I'm going to spend 10 hours with my family, 15 hours doing this, because that's not how life works.
No.
You got to find balance over the course of the macro to where maybe this week is dedicated to the business, this week is dedicated to the family. So how do you go about figuring out what those non-negotiables are and then auditing, am I spending enough time with my family? Am I spending enough time focusing on my focus? How do you go about that?
Yeah, I don't think there's an answer to that. I think everybody is different. I think the right answer is within your heart and within your passion. So if you are passionate about your family, then that's what you're going to spend the most of your time doing. Doesn't mean if you're not necessarily, quote unquote, overly passionate about your family, they're not important to you, but you may have other passions that you want to, that are important for you to partake in. So therefore you can be the best for your family and for other things that are important. So, for me, there's no structure to it. I just know what I enjoy. Okay, I enjoy to work out. Cool. I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to take my coffee and, have my 1 cup of coffee, do my reading because that's my kind of quiet time, walk the dogs, and then I'm going to work out in my driveway because that's what fulfills me. Yeah. And every day, and maybe one day that's not what does fulfill me. Maybe I wake up and I'm like, screw this. I don't want to do it. Maybe fulfilling me is sleeping in that day. That's totally cool too. So I think as long as each person can make an educated decision on how they feel and they feel that that's going to be the most productive thing for them, I think that's the right answer.
No, I agree. Because some people use time blocking. All right, this hour I'm going to do this.
Yeah, nothing wrong with any of that.
So,
all of it's great. Different. Yeah, and so as I move forward in life, not just with insurance, but being able to coach people and speak to them and help them with their own methodology, we do work on a curriculum of letting them dictate what it is and how to structure their day and how to be the most productive, and understand that relationships are the key component to any healthy and beautiful life. But in order to be healthy in those relationships, you want to feel good about yourself and do the things within you that make you feel that ultimate being. And so those are the things that I kind of work on with people, because everybody just has a different footprint inside of them. Yeah. So what I do every day may not be of interest to you, but there might be certain facets of what I do or certain things that I've seen or heard about that I can help lead you in that right direction.
Absolutely. I mean, everything that you're talking about, you had to experience something, learn from it, and figure out how do I navigate moving forward to ultimately make me happier in life.
Yeah.
That being said, I mean, running a business, there's lots of ups and downs. It's a free roller coaster, I guess you could say. But with that being said, I mean, you've obviously had lots of ups. What's been the biggest, I guess, struggle or like downfall that you've faced in your career to where maybe you didn't know if you could keep doing it, or you not even sure what it made you feel, but what's been the biggest struggle that you've had to face and how did you overcome it?
There are times that I think the passion bucket will sometimes run out because maybe you're faced with situations that are really tough, and I will see things that come across my desk that aren't necessarily directly related to me, but indirectly related to me. And I see death and I see all sorts of, stuff that you're just kind of like, what am I doing? Yeah. And it takes, again, experience and having to go through that a few times to understand that, this is just part of what it is that we do and how we do it. And again, dealing with liquor liability, I see a lot of death, more than I'd like to, because, people make, let's just say unwise decisions and it affects others. And so that can be really trying because, in the same breath, it's like, I'm here to help protect these establishments from certain things that can, arise due to other people's, actions or their inactions. And, you almost take like a personal, kind of gut to it. And so part of me at times with the struggle is kind of like, do I really need to keep doing this and have that, but you just kind of work through it and you understand that if you're not here doing it, who's going to do it the way that you do it and how you do it and who's going to help these people. So it's, it's tough. And the time constraint thing, it becomes tough too, because the other biggest struggle I have is lending all my time to everybody all the time and not taking as much time for myself. So now I will legitimately like pack my car, and I know if I'm going to be near Camelback Mountain, I'll be like, okay, I'm taking this hour out for myself. Everybody can wait, because I'm one of those type A, fixated on, oh my God, I got to answer this text. And so are you. Yeah. And you just got to pick and choose your battle. But there's nothing wrong with being that person either, because a lot of being that person gives me a thrill. Like, I love it, I love the fact that people are reaching out to me. There was a time I'd circle the office hoping somebody would call me, And now it's like, we'll leave this podcast. I'll have 20 emails and I'll have them all answered by the time I leave my car.
Yeah.
But that's because I've set an interface together because I don't have to do all that work anymore. I just got to be there for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough. I mean, you mentioned something, feeling personally responsible or, the tragic stuff that you see. But at the same time, had you not been there for that restaurant, they could have been undercovered. They could have been set up for failure, essentially, which could negatively impact so many more families than essentially the one thing that might have happened. I mean, it's never fun, to talk about those situations, but you also don't see what could have happened had they not been partnered with you. Could have ruined so many more lives than what had happened.
Yeah, and that makes me feel good, in the aspect of, just knowing that we have the right crew, the right people, and we do all that we can to help, take care of people. And sometimes you will get those phone calls from people that aren't quite yet your clients, and they're like, oh, I don't want this or that. And we're like, we're probably just not a fit for you. I understand that, that's maybe not your thing, but I'm not going to not cover you.
I love it. It's knowing what it takes to deliver to really be successful in what you're doing for a business, and not just, oh, we're going to do it this way because at least it's still going to generate some revenue, but I'm not fulfilling what I set out to wake up every day, which is properly covering the clients that I work with. And it's knowing that you're in a good spot to be able to say no to that.
Yeah.
Because you have your values.
But also speaking their language. So, yesterday I go on an appointment, large, group, and they're larger in another area of influence, and that's construction. But they happen to have these 2 restaurants, and they have, now they've formed this restaurant group because they took over these restaurants that are part of their rent now. And so I sat there and they're like, our insurance agent over here for the construction company reminds us that, he doesn't insure these 2 restaurants that we have, but we have you here because I really wanted somebody that speaks restaurant.
Yeah.
That is, the guy. And that to me is the reward for putting so much time and effort in the last 20 years into what I'm doing, because that just I look forward to those meetings and then I look forward to getting what it is that I'm supposed to do to help them and know that I can come up with a solution.
Yeah. No, love it. I mean, you're helping so many different businesses plan and really mitigate risk in the future. So you're planning quite a bit with, your clients. Yeah. What are you planning on personally and from a business in the next 6 to 12 months?
Hard press on Arizona. Look, there's a lot of places I don't work with that I probably would love to. I don't even know who they are at this point, other than a handful. So a hard press, and there's a lot of new openings that are out here, and I've hired more people, so I have a little more bandwidth to grow a little bit more. I'm not looking to be the biggest in the world. I'm just looking to continue to be what I feel is the best in what I do, and add value to that, and be able to refer people other services beyond insurance that I think makes sense to help grow their business and kind of have us all succeed together. And then while I do that, to be able to hold a platform for people to be able to come to me and better their lives. And so whether that be, owners or people working it, because, the restaurant, the health of the restaurant worker is not the greatest in the world. And that's both mentally and physically. So as I've worked through my health and through my situations and everything, I think I can lend a platform to those that want to come to it and be helped as well. So, a little bit of that will be transitioning this year to where I can kind of do more coaching and speaking on that aspect while I'm, continuing to grow the agency.
Love it.
Yeah.
Doing lots of stuff.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Gotta love it. This has been great. I mean, as we kind of wrap up, would love to kind of hear some final thoughts for any restaurant that's out there listening to this, restaurant owner that goes, I haven't checked my insurance policy. I don't even know where I'm at. I guess what's the biggest piece of advice that you'd have for them?
Restaurants are a tough business. They are one of the most misunderstood businesses when it comes to the amount of risk that they do or do not have. And if you haven't owned a restaurant or worked in one like I have on both terms, to be looking from the outside in, you may not understand all the exposures and the risks. So the biggest thing I kind of get back is, understanding what you're not covered for, not what you are covered for. So, insurance companies, man, they're sneaky, and I'm not an insurance company. I'm just a guy that's in your back office that's going out to the insurance companies to find the best partner for you.
Yep.
And I don't care who it is. I don't care what the name on the paper is. Most of my clients don't even know what insurance carrier. They just know DeLo is, oh, I do insurance with DeLo. Yeah. And so, but there's a lot of choices and there's a lot of exclusionary language that comes with certain policies and certain things. So the biggest takeaway would be to understand what you're not covered for.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's probably, for every industry, it's
until something happens and you're like, oh, well, I thought I had this.
Hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah, you don't.
That extra $100 a month or whatever could have prevented, that $300,000 claim or whatever it may be. And so that being said, I mean, if there is anyone that, wants to reach out, get a quote from you, whatever that may look like, how can people find you?
I don't know. You're the one doing all my media stuff. No, you can find me on Instagram. You can find, so I have at I am the DeLo. That's my personal coaching, page. And then I also have, bar and restaurant insurance on Instagram. But I really, for the business stuff, barandrestaurantinsurance.com, my website. And, I'm going to have a really cool website with a lot of cool stuff on there.
This week.
Got my podcast on there with local restaurant owners that talk about their story. And yeah, you can click to get a quote on there. You can call me, whatever. I'm here.
Yeah, so, free, no obligation.
There you go.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming in. I'm not going to say the word busy. You have a lot going on, so thank you for prioritizing us today and coming in.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for the block.